At 236 grams, the Oppo Find X9 Ultra is noticeably front-heavy. Picking it up feels less like holding a smartphone and more like handling a dedicated camera system that happens to have a screen attached. To get true optical performance, you need physical depth. Fitting this photographic hardware into a pocket device requires an unavoidable takeover of the phone's footprint. The resulting spec sheet reads like an arms race. It packs over 550 total megapixels, a massive near 1-inch primary sensor, and boasts 300 megapixels of optical zoom. Oppo isn't aiming at other flagship smartphones here. By integrating a 10x optical periscope lens and an imaging engine tuned specifically for professional color science, they are explicitly targeting the dedicated DSLRs sitting in a creator's gear bag. This situation creates an immediate, unavoidable tension. When you market a highly specialized, physically dense production tool as a standard daily smartphone, you end up with a device that demands serious compromises from anyone who just wants to text, scroll, and casually snap photos. So before you drop flagship money, you have to ask yourself, do you actually require this level of optical engineering for your day-to-day life, or are you just buying into the spec sheet hype? Let's map your need for professional output against your tolerance for physical bulk. Everyday users sit down here, wanting good photos in a pocketable device. The Find X9 Ultra plots top right, demanding massive bulk, but the X9s drops into the middle, striking a realistic balance. By the end of this video, we're going to figure out exactly which dot represents you, so you can avoid buying a heavy, expensive, ergonomic nightmare that you'll never fully utilize. Looking at the camera system, the X9 Ultra offers a focal range sweeping from a 13mm ultra-wide out to a 460mm equivalent. Hitting those numbers requires multiple physical lens arrays. Light travels through heavily stacked glass elements and periscope prisms, achieving pure optical magnification without digital cropping. Because you have a dedicated 50-megapixel 10x periscope lens backing up that near 1-inch primary sensor, you get incredibly crisp physical optical zoom. You're capturing actual light data at a distance, rather than just zooming in on pixels and watching the details blur. But where this phone truly separates itself is in its video pipeline, specifically with the inclusion of live LET integration. You can shoot in 4K at 120 frames per second in log format and simultaneously apply lookup tables directly on the screen while you record. This allows videographers to bake in a cinematic color grade live on set, bypassing hours of tedious post-production work. However, if you don't understand color science and you accidentally shoot in log format, you'll end up with a flat, washed-out, completely gray clip that looks terrible. The complex multi-sensor array also introduces physical quirks. As you zoom in, and the software hands off the image between sensors, there's a noticeable color temperature shift. Correcting that shift requires editing in professional software. You lose the effortless reliability most people expect when pulling a smartphone from their pocket. The X9 Ultra provides hybrid shooters and indie filmmakers with a powerful, pocketable production studio. But for someone just wanting to capture vibrant videos for social media, those pro-grade features turn into frustrating obstacles. Driving all of that complex image processing is the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor. The thermal management here is highly efficient. Even during heavy computational loads like high-end gaming, the chip sustains a continuous 60 frames per second without overheating or throttling performance. Supplying power to that processor is a massive 7,050 mAh battery. This chart plots screen on time under continuous heavy usage. A standard flagship battery will usually tap out before the 24-hour mark. The X9 Ultra easily pushes past that, carrying a heavy load all the way out to 2 full days of use. For users who travel constantly or rely heavily on their device, a reliable 2-day battery life eliminates daily charging anxiety. But wrapping a 7,000 mAh battery cell around a 1-inch camera sensor carries a steep physical penalty. You cannot cheat the mass required for those components. The sheer size of the camera module shifts the center of gravity to the top. When held in one hand to type, the phone constantly wants to tip backward. If you plan to keep this phone for 4 or 5 years, balancing a dense 236-gram brick for hours of casual browsing will cause genuine wrist strain. You get practically flawless thermal performance and unmatched battery endurance, But the inescapable trade-off is a compromise in everyday physical comfort and pocketability. This brings us to the Find X9s, which Oppo specifically positioned as an escape hatch for buyers who want reliable, high-end performance without paying the professional hardware tax. It runs on the Dimensity 9500S processor. It's a slightly toned-down chip, but it still easily clears 3 million on the Antutu benchmark, delivering speed that feels virtually identical to top-tier flagships in daily use. Most importantly, it retains an enormous 7,025 mAh battery, giving you that exact same 2-day power security found in the Ultra. To achieve its smaller form factor, you do have to make precise sacrifices. You lose the 1-inch primary sensor, the extreme 10x periscope reach, and the walled video LUT integration. By stripping away the extreme optics meant for professional color graders, the X9s emerges as a lighter, more affordable, and fundamentally better daily phone for 95% of buyers. Making your final choice comes down to answering a few direct questions about how you actually use your device on a daily basis. Flowchart Filter 1. Do you color grade or shoot log format? If yes, choose the X9 Ultra. If no, Filter 2. Do you actively need 15x optical zoom? If yes, the Ultra delivers. If no to both, the Find X9s is exactly what you need. Paying a premium for the Ultra just to claim you have the highest megapixel count means you are willingly burdening yourself with an unbalanced heavy camera that you aren't fully exploiting. The X9 Ultra is a powerhouse, but it should only be in your pocket if you intend to wield it as a dedicated production tool. For everyone else, the Find X9s is the undisputed champion of practical daily use.